toolier than a Tudor, less bling than a Breitling. And yet, most US pilots have never heard of this brand. This isn't a cosmonaut campfire story. This is the gouge for pilots. Professional pilots who want a watch that does more than just look the part. And after flying with the Fortis, F-43 Triple GMT for a month, I get it. Fortis is one of those names that if you're a pilot in the United States, you've probably never heard spoken out loud. It sounds like a call sign or maybe a constellation. But in Switzerland, and among the people who actually fly things for a living on that side of the pond, Fortis is a 113-year-old, independent, family-owned luxury watch manufacturer with a deep aerospace heritage. Fortis has been making watches without interruption for longer than any family-owned watch brand in history. Outside the US, these things are everywhere. Last year, at a big aviation fair in Europe, basically Oshkosh with better coffee, Fortis counted that roughly 3 out of 10 pilots walking around were wearing their watches. Airline pilots, military pilots, aerobatic pilots, instructors, the whole food chain. The Swiss Air Force FA-18 community wears them. The PC-7 team, the airshow demo guys, has been providing Fortis with design feedback for over 30 years. This isn't influencer seeding. This is, if it doesn't work, we won't wear it. Now, if you know any Fortis lore at all, it's probably the one about the cosmonaut who supposedly used his Fortis as an improvised hammer on a space station. It was Mir or the ISS, depending on who's telling the story. Fortis's official line is, maybe, which in the watch world translates to, something definitely happened up there, and nobody wants to put it in writing. But that's not the story we're telling today. The F-43 Triple GMT is not a space souvenir. This watch isn't about orbital EVA heroics or Cold War vibes. This watch was built for pilots, not astronauts. This is what happens when a small, stubbornly independent watchmaker decides they're going to make a pilot's watch by talking to fighter pilots, not focus groups. Here's a watch built because professional aviators said, here's what we actually need. And the team at Fortis said, all right, let's build it. And that's why you've never heard of them. Because Fortis isn't chasing hype. They're chasing function, what they like to call luxury you can really use. I've spent the last month flying with the F-43 Triple GMT on my wrist, and here's the pie rep. This thing belongs on the flight deck. Grade 2 titanium, 43 millimeters, all business. It has the wrist presence of an airframe component, but without the weight. Everything about the case says refined tool. No shine, no polish, no look at me nonsense. Just a matte, quiet confidence. On my 8-inch wrist, it sits like it was issued. I mean, just look at this beast. The dial is where Fortis really shows its homework. It's a flieger, yes, but not the museum piece kind. This is a modernized flieger, built to be read at a glance in a cockpit, not admired behind glass. Legible, balanced, and somehow managing to integrate a full GMT inner dial without turning into a cluttered airshow poster. And I kept finding myself taking a beat to appreciate it, drawn back to this dial like it had its own gravity. Then there's the orange, and I don't compliment orange lightly. Fortis's formulation is perfect, just enough contrast to wake up the black and white dial without shouting over it, and it hides a little Easter egg we'll get to later. Now the anti-reflective coating, this is where I had to stop and say it out loud. This is the best AR I've ever seen. It's fantastic. Fortis's official explanation? It's magic. Useful. The Flyer GMT movement has ruined collar-style GMTs for me. It's the first time I've flown with a true GMT like this, and I don't want to go back to an office-style movement. The bezel on this watch deserves its own Tumblr blog. Functionally, it's concave, protects the crystal and stays out of the dial's way. But visually, the restrained luxury aesthetic Fortis is known for one out. It could use more contrast. A bolder 12-hour marker would help make it way more functional. Someone at Fortis is listening as they have fixed this on their updated F-41. That said, the feel is ridiculous. The grippy coin edge, bidirectional travel, and an action that uses ball plungers instead of the usual leaf springs. It feels better than any Rolex I've touched. It's that crisp, that confident, that good, and no crown guards. I asked Fortis why, And their answer was essentially, "We beat the hell out of it in testing. It's fine." After a month of flying with it, I believe them. The whole watch feels carved out of something that does not negotiate. The bracelet is equally solid, comfortable, hefty, and sporting a clasp with a slick push-button micro-adjust slider. 10 millimeters of travel on the fly. Necessary considering there isn't a Fortis dealer within a few states of me. I was at full extension. Barely. I wanted to switch it to a leather NATO I bought just for this watch, but the screws wouldn't budge on the loaner model. And I wasn't about to scratch a watch I had to send back. Here's the truth. I was actually sad to return this watch. I've reviewed some loaners for this channel, but I've never wanted to add one to my own small collection as badly as this. This one hooked me hard. Fortis got its start in aviation back in 1929, when a Fortis-built Harwood automatic was worn aboard the Graf Zeppelin on the first round-the-world airship flight. They've made purpose-built pilot and space watches for decades, but their real philosophy is brutally simple. A pilot doesn't need nostalgia. A pilot needs legibility. Ask anyone who has actually flown the line or briefed a 1v1 engagement. It's not about triangles, dots, or historical cosplay. It's about reading the time instantly. Everything else is noise. Many brands get stuck in a vintage pilot watch rut. Fortis refuses to play that game. Their goal is a contemporary pilot watch, something that belongs in a modern cockpit, not a museum case. Clean, industrial, hyper-readable, engineered to take punishment without looking like it's trying too hard. Their mantra captures it perfectly. Luxury you can actually use. That's the job. That's why their fliegers lean toward maximal ruggedness, balanced with an understated aviation aesthetic. Because Fortis is family-owned and independent, it doesn't design these things by committee. Their approach is refreshingly oddball and stubbornly practical. Not built to impress the nerds on Reddit, but built to impress pilots. Their philosophy is simple. Make it modern, make it readable, make it tough. The F-43 demonstrates exactly that philosophy. Inside the Triple GMT beats the Work 13, a movement built by Kenissi, the same craftsmen who make the movements used by Tudor. This is modern, purpose-built GMT architecture, not a dressed-up eboche. Fortis didn't just buy it off the shelf. They added a custom Fortis rotor, an oversized bridge for extra stability, variable inertia regulation, and two-point fixation designed to survive the kind of shock pilots pretend don't happen. In their words, Kenissi is already best in class for tool watch reliability, and they tuned it for combat. You get a 70-hour power reserve, which Fortis describes as weekend-proof. And the whole thing is COSC chronometer certified, promising -4 to +6 seconds per day. For the record, my loaner was running a little outside that, probably magnetized. Here's what makes the Fortis F-43 Triple GMT a pilot's tool, not just a watch with a flieger font. First, Grade 2 titanium. Fortis built the case and the bracelet out of it, not because it's trendy, but because it's easier to machine into the complex architecture they wanted, and because it keeps a large 43mm watch from feeling like a barbell on your wrist. Grade 2 is a little softer than Grade 5, which means more toolish, less jewelry. It's matte, quiet, non-reflective, exactly the kind of surface you want on a flight deck. And the solid case back keeps the movement protected. Purpose over polish. Then there's the titanium block bracelet, and this thing is engineered like aircraft hardware. 3-row H-links, all brushed for anti-reflective utility, with zero play between the links. No taper here. It gives the watch a geometrically solid feel without the weight penalty. The clasp is where it gets really clever. A push button, tool-free micro-adjust slider with about 10 millimeters of travel. If you've ever had your wrist swell at altitude, you know why that matters. It closes with a proper snap. It feels secure. Now the dial. This is where the pilot personality really shows. The Work 13 is a true GMT movement. Jumping local hour hand, independent 24-hour hand, and a rotating 12-hour bezel. Not 24. Why? Because pilots don't flip through time zones in theory. They do it in real time. The 12-hour bezel lets you track a third zone instantly and intuitively. The Synchroline might be the most pilot-specific feature I've ever seen on a production watch. Developed with the Swiss PC7 team, it's not about hacking seconds. Lots do that. This is a hacking alignment cue. The orange line at 12 has a micro gap. When the second hand closes that gap, everyone sets together. A flight synchronization feature baked into a wristwatch. Only pilots would ask for that. Only Fortis includes it.
Synchronize your watches.
I don't know how to do that.
I don't wear a watch.
Time is a construct.
Let me know in the comments if a deep dive into time hacks should be its own episode someday. Fortis's applied luminous indices aren't painted or printed. They're little 3D blocks filled with Super Luminova X1. Fortis patented the design under the name Brixtrack. They stand proud of the dial, giving depth, clarity, and solid nighttime readability. The ring they sit on is brushed, adding a subtle halo effect. It's modern flieger design done right, familiar without being stuck in the 1940s. Fortis calls its signature Berlac or orange formulation, orange on steroids, and it lives up to the name. It pops even in the washed-out glare at high altitudes. This paint chemistry was tuned for the highest contrast under the intense ultraviolet conditions found in the flight levels and on orbit. This is functional color, not fashion. And then there's the Fortis Lucky 13. Once a month, the date window flashes that same Berlac orange. The brand was founded on the 13th. The Philip family signed the purchase contract on the 13th. 13 employees on takeover day. They do all their releases on the 13th. Fortis embraces it hard enough that the 13th is now their unofficial holiday. It's a tiny Easter egg, but one with attitude. And all of this sets up the real question. How does a purpose-built, pilot-first instrument like the F-43 stack up against the most mainstream modern GMT out there, the Tudor? Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Tudor Black Bay GMT, around $5,000, steel. Snowflake hands everyone recognizes, a movement made in the same Kenissi factory as the Fortis. It's also a dive watch playing dress-up as a pilot's tool. The Tudor weighs more. The Fortis is titanium, lighter, tougher, purpose-built. And look, if you want the Tudor, buy the Tudor. It's a great watch, but don't tell me it's a pilot's tool just because it has a GMT hand. Then there's the Fortis, titanium, purpose-built, a watch that doesn't ask permission to be big because it was designed to actually do a different job. It costs about the same, but you're paying for function over folklore. So the question isn't which is better. It's, do you want heritage or hardware? Only one of these feels like it belongs here. So after a month of flying with the Fortis F-43 Triple GMT, here's my assessment. Is this watch for you? For pilots? Absolutely. If you want a serious instrument that nobody else on your crew is wearing. The Triple GMT setup isn't marketing fluff. It's genuinely useful. Whatever time zone dispatch is playing hopscotch with today, it will handle anything your next sequence will throw at it. For collectors, if you value independent brands, real engineering, and a tool-first philosophy, this thing hits like a freight train. It's modern, it's overbuilt, and it has that Fortis, we do it our way DNA you just don't get from the big corporate houses. For someone just looking to flex at the FBO lounge, maybe not. Nobody's going to recognize it. But the one person who does, they probably flew in an Alpine Hornet or spent time flying with a European carrier. The F-43 isn't a hype watch. It's a pilot's watch. And if that's what you're looking for, it's an easy yes. The Fortis is proof that pilot watches don't have to be nostalgic. They just have to work. No theatrics, no faux patina breadcrumbs, no pretending we're flying Spitfires. Just a modern, purpose-built tool that does exactly what it needs to. If you want a watch that doesn't need to beg for attention, that feels like it was engineered by people who actually talk to pilots, this one earns its place on the flight deck. I'll miss it more than I care to admit. Next week, we change altitude, way down into American micro-brand territory. We'll look at a watch that punches so far above its weight it ought to file an ASAP report. So keep your speed up and your crown screwed down.